Welcome to Palace Insider, and thanks for being here today. Stop everything for a moment, because what Tom Bower just uncovered about Meghan Markle's 2026 financial situation is not the version her PR team wants people talking about.
They are at the moment facing a real crisis. Meghan and Harry's crisis, completely of their own making, is they have no major projects, no major money earner. And so they're more desperate than ever.
Reports even mention $23 million worth of unsold jam sitting in a warehouse instead of flying off the shelves. The Archwell Foundation was reportedly marked delinquent by California officials. A Netflix project slid down the rankings to around 1,217 on the platform, and a business plan that once aimed for billionaire-level success suddenly looks a lot less certain. Tom Bower has made several predictions about this story before, and many of them ended up happening. Now he is laying out where he believes all of this is heading next. Stay with me, because this situation does not just get surprising. It grows even more complicated before any possible turnaround appears. A lot of people still glance at Harry and Meghan and assume they must be doing just fine financially. But Bower says the real issue goes beyond money. He describes a slow collapse of a system he claims he predicted years ago.
The implosion of the Sussexes. Meghan Markle's Archwell charity scam and as ever lies have finally been exposed, and an astonishing double blow for the fake.
And now he believes it is unfolding in real time. According to him, this situation has reached a point where strong PR, careful messaging, or polished interviews cannot easily change the narrative anymore. The picture Tom Bower lays out is intense, a story of huge ambition crashing straight into harsh reality in a way few people expected. He describes a situation where carefully built public images meet facts that are much harder to explain away. And this is someone who stepped away from one of the most powerful institutions in the world, secured a $100 million Netflix deal, launched a lifestyle brand, created a charity foundation, and told audiences everywhere that a completely new path was beginning. The message was clear at the time. They believed they were about to reshape the rules of influence, media, and global philanthropy. But by 2026, Bower says the situation looks very different. He claims the evidence now paints a far less glamorous picture, and he argues the details deserve closer attention. Let's start with the Archwell Foundation, because Bower says this is where the most revealing part of the story begins. When Harry and Meghan launched Archwell in 2020, it was presented as a humanitarian mission named after their son, Archie, built around compassion, service, and meaningful change. That was the public message at the start, but Bower points to the foundation's own publicly filed 990 tax documents and says the numbers tell a more complicated story. In 2021, Archwell reportedly received $13 million in donations, which ended up being its strongest year. At first glance, that number sounds very impressive, but the cracks started showing pretty quickly. By 2024, donations had reportedly dropped to $2.1 million, falling sharply from about $5.3 million the year before. At the same time, total expenses were listed at around $5.1 million. Do the math and the gap becomes obvious.
She is hoping that she's going to become a billionaire off all of this, which again is total insanity. I think the woman's expectations are so unrealistic.
The spending was more than double what actually came in. And here is the part Tom Bower highlights as the most troubling detail. Out of that $5.1 million in expenses, only about $1.25 million reportedly went toward direct charitable programs. The rest, nearly $4 million, went to things like salaries, security, travel, and administrative costs. One expense that stands out is security, which Bower says was around $2 million a year, a massive amount tied to the charity's overall budget. Bower argues this shows something important about how Archwell was structured. In his view, it did not operate like a traditional charity with a large network of programs and staff. Instead, he claims it functioned more like a financial structure connected to the couple's broader business activities, including media and publishing deals. That kind of setup is not illegal, and many wealthy public figures use foundations in different ways. But Bower says the structure here raised questions about priorities and transparency. Then he points to another surprising detail he uncovered. By the end of 2024, Archwell reportedly had only 5 employees. During what was described as a rebrand, several staff members, roughly 2 or 3 people, or about 60% of the team, were suddenly let go. Some former staff were reportedly told the organization might be closing, though that message was later softened by representatives. Around the same time, the website briefly disappeared without a clear explanation, while the organization shifted branding toward Archwell Philanthropies. Bowers says this fits a pattern he has observed. When problems appear, the narrative changes, the messaging gets adjusted, and new explanations emerge.
Well, absolutely, but don't even believe that there were 5 options. What you really saw were Harry's and Meghan's fantasy narrative, which they call the truth.
But he argues more people are starting to notice these shifts. At one point, California officials issued a delinquency notice, which meant the organization had not filed certain paperwork correctly. That also meant it was temporarily not authorized to raise or distribute charitable funds until the issue was resolved. A surprising development for an organization that promotes itself as a global humanitarian effort. And according to Bauer, that situation is not just a small bookkeeping mistake. He describes it as a flashing warning sign that something bigger may be wrong behind the scenes. Now shift the focus to as ever, because if Archwell looks like a slow decline, Bauer claims this brand turned into a full public spectacle. Years ago, Bauer warned that Meghan's business moves seemed driven more by image and personal ambition than by careful market planning. In his view, the launch of As Ever in April 2024 quickly became the test of that idea. At first, the headlines sounded impressive. News stories claimed Meghan's jam sold out in hours. The PR buzz was everywhere, and the launch looked like a major success. But Bauer argues the real story may be very different once people look past the headlines. According to figures he points to, the As Ever store inventory tells a surprising story. He claims there could be around $23 million worth of unsold products sitting in storage. That reportedly includes about 137,455 fruit spread gift boxes still sitting in a warehouse. Bauer claims that in a recent 24-hour period, only 26 units sold. At that pace, clearing the inventory could take years, and these products have expiration dates. The list does not stop there. Reports connected to the inventory also mention roughly 44,000 jars of orange marmalade, 62,000 candles, and about 80,000 decorative flower sprinkles still waiting for buyers. Bauer's explanation is blunt. He argues the original sellout moment was driven more by limited initial stock and strong publicity than by long-term demand. According to his theory, only a small batch was released early to create excitement and headlines, which then encouraged larger production orders. But curiosity does not always turn into repeat customers. Some early reviewers were unimpressed, with one person even saying, "It tasted like Smucker's at $36 a jar," despite the brand receiving major attention and promotion connected to Netflix. According to Bauer, the support behind the brand appears minimal at best. He argues the massive empire Meghan once imagined is now running straight into the reality of hard numbers instead of polished headlines. In Bauer's telling, the difference between the public image and the financial results is becoming harder to ignore, and he claims the documents and data back that up. Now shift to the Netflix angle, because this is where Bauer says the story becomes even more dramatic. For years, many people believed Meghan and Harry's $100 million Netflix deal was their golden ticket, the move that would launch a powerful media empire and secure long-term influence in entertainment. But Bauer claims the reality behind the scenes has been far more complicated than those early headlines suggested. Netflix is a company built on data, algorithms, and clear performance results. According to Bauer, once the platform began analyzing the actual numbers tied to their projects, the relationship reportedly started to strain. He claims the partnership quietly cooled off, with projects slowing down and fewer new ideas getting approved. Instead of constant expansion, Bauer says the pipeline of content became smaller, and some planned productions reportedly stalled. What went wrong? Bauer says the answer comes down to one thing: viewership numbers. Streaming companies track every detail of audience behavior, from completion rates to repeat viewing. Bauer claims that when the first projects launched, the engagement levels did not meet expectations. Platforms like Netflix rely heavily on those real-time metrics rather than media buzz. According to Bauer, internal frustration began to grow as executives questioned whether the projects were truly connecting with viewers. His reporting suggests concerns were raised that the audience response simply was not strong enough to justify the scale of the investment. That kind of situation can be a harsh reality check in Hollywood and the streaming world. According to Bauer, once the performance numbers failed to meet expectations, the tone around the partnership reportedly began to change quickly behind the scenes. Publicly, the messaging still sounded positive. Interviews, press coverage, and polished headlines continued to suggest that Netflix and Meghan were moving forward together with bold, creative plans. The image presented to the public looked confident and forward-thinking. But Bauer's sources describe a different atmosphere internally. He claims communication between the teams slowed down, production meetings were reportedly canceled, and marketing support that once pushed the projects heavily began to fade away. Shows that were originally promoted as groundbreaking gradually disappeared from major promotional campaigns. In the entertainment industry, that kind of silence often speaks louder than announcements. When promotion stops and development stalls, it can signal that a partnership is losing momentum. Bauer also claims there were contractual pressures quietly building in the background. Streaming platforms invest huge sums expecting consistent content and strong audience engagement. According to his reporting, Netflix executives were focused on accountability for projects that did not fully deliver on expectations. This situation, Bauer argues, was not just about image or reputation. It involved a massive entertainment deal worth around $100 million, and when results fall short, platforms tend to move quickly. He also suggests the impact may have spread beyond Netflix. Without strong backing from a major streaming partner, Bauer says other potential collaborators and investors reportedly became more cautious, concerned about the gap between big publicity and measurable results. Bauer's reporting tries to paint a very clear picture. In his view, this situation is not just a small setback, but a major financial and reputational challenge unfolding in public view. He argues that Netflix became a key turning point in the story. According to Bauer, once the performance metrics told a different story than the early hype, the streaming company began stepping back. Platforms like Netflix rely heavily on data, viewing time, repeat audiences, and long-term engagement. And Bauer says those numbers ultimately shape the decisions that get made. The result, he claims, left Meghan with projects and business plans that once looked powerful on paper, but struggled to maintain momentum in reality. Bauer frames it as a moment where publicity and performance no longer matched. For years, many observers believed the Netflix deal made Meghan and Harry nearly unstoppable in the entertainment space. But Bauer argues the situation shifted quickly once the platform started reevaluating its investment. In his telling, the partnership began losing energy, the brand started facing credibility questions, and the idea of a massive media empire became harder to sustain. Bauer describes it as a reminder of how the entertainment business works. Big ambition, strong personalities, and enormous deals still depend on one thing above all else: audience engagement. He also argues that early hype and media excitement may have created a powerful first wave of attention. Headlines were loud, the launch moments looked impressive, and curiosity drove many people to watch at least once. But Bauer claims the real test for streaming platforms is whether viewers come back again and again. According to his reporting, that repeat engagement never fully materialized. He even describes the platform's approach as a kind of slow ghosting, where communication fades and projects quietly disappear. In that context, Bauer points out that Love Meghan reportedly did not move forward for a third season, and he suggests the second season itself never gained the same momentum that early publicity once promised. What many viewers thought were multiple seasons actually turned out to be one season split into two parts, with a relatively small amount of content overall. According to Bauer, the performance numbers surrounding the show tell a very clear story. He claims Love Meghan ranked around 1,217 on Netflix, while a related holiday special reportedly landed closer to 1,500 in the rankings. For a project backed by massive media attention, a large production budget, and a highly publicized streaming deal, Bauer argues those numbers raise serious questions about audience interest. Bauer's personal assessment of the situation is blunt. In his view, the show struggled because it lacked originality and depth. He argues that much of the content felt carefully staged and overly polished rather than natural or spontaneous. The concept appeared to lean toward lifestyle inspiration, with comparisons often made to figures like Martha Stewart. But Bauer claims the execution failed to capture the same authenticity that audiences expect from that kind of programming. Some of the examples he highlights are small but symbolic. Scenes focused on simple lifestyle activities, arranging snacks, preparing basic foods, or decorating, which critics said felt more like curated social media moments than engaging television. Sources Bauer interviewed also suggested that a strong focus on visual presentation may have affected the overall tone of the show. According to them, significant attention was placed on appearance and camera presentation during filming, which they believe made the content feel less relaxed and more staged. Meanwhile, Bauer says many viewers originally tuned in expecting something very different, perhaps a deeper documentary-style project, or a revealing behind-the-scenes story connected to royal life. Instead, they were presented with lifestyle segments about cooking, hosting, and home aesthetics. Bauer argues that mismatch between expectation and delivery played a role in the show's reception. In his reporting, he concludes that the remaining first-look deal with Netflix may simply represent the platform slowly stepping back without making a dramatic public announcement, a quiet phase-out rather than a loud cancellation. While all of this was reportedly unfolding in California, another moment was drawing attention overseas. Prince Harry appeared in a London courtroom, testifying in his legal case against the Daily Mail over alleged phone hacking that reportedly took place between 2001 and 2013, years before Meghan entered the royal story. During part of the testimony, Harry became emotional and spoke about the impact media coverage has had on his family. At one point, he said, "They've made my wife's life an absolute misery." The comment stood out because the case itself focused on events that allegedly happened long before Meghan was part of his life. Bauer interprets this moment as revealing something about Harry's perspective. In his view, Harry's current narrative about the media is deeply connected to his relationship and shared experiences with Meghan, even when discussing events from earlier periods of his life. The courtroom exchange reportedly became tense at times. According to reports, the judge intervened more than once during questioning, reminding Harry to focus on answering the questions rather than debating with opposing counsel. Observers noted that the situation created a dramatic scene, a prince giving emotional testimony in a high-profile legal battle while intense public scrutiny continued around his personal and professional life. At the same time, Meghan was reportedly in California and active on social media, while the court proceedings were taking place in London. The contrast between those two moments drew plenty of commentary online. Bauer argues that when you place all these developments side by side, legal battles, media criticism, business challenges, and entertainment setbacks, it creates the picture of a much larger shift. In his reporting, he describes it not as a single setback, but as a broader unraveling that publicity alone may struggle to repair. According to Tom Bauer, the $100 million Netflix deal that once looked like the ultimate power move has started to resemble a cautionary example for the entertainment industry. What was expected to launch a long list of successful shows, documentaries, and lifestyle programs has, in Bauer's view, turned into a case study about the gap between hype and real performance. Early on, Bauer says Netflix executives were willing to take the chance. The platform invested heavily and allowed time for the partnership to develop. But like every streaming company, they were closely watching the numbers behind the scenes. And those numbers, Bauer argues, told a very different story than the headlines. Audience engagement reportedly stayed weaker than expected, and several projects that were promoted as major launches struggled to stand out on the platform. He points to Love Meghan, which Bauer describes as the flagship project meant to anchor the partnership. Instead of becoming a breakout hit, he claims it struggled to gain strong traction with viewers. At the same time, Bauer connects this entertainment slowdown to the broader brand issues surrounding AZEVER, including reports about large amounts of unsold inventory, figures he estimates at around $23 million worth of products sitting in storage. According to Bauer, Netflix executives noticed the growing disconnect between publicity and results and gradually began losing confidence. He describes the response as what he calls strategic ghosting. Rather than making dramatic announcements, Bauer says the platform simply allowed the relationship to fade. Projects were not renewed, meetings slowed down or stopped, budgets became tighter, and marketing support quietly disappeared. In Bauer's view, this reflects a common corporate strategy. Allow the performance metrics to speak for themselves while the image of a powerful partnership slowly fades away without a major public confrontation. One point Bauer emphasizes is that this situation did not happen suddenly. In his reporting, he argues the problems built slowly over time as expectations grew higher and the results struggled to keep up. Bauer believes Meghan's creative vision for Netflix focused heavily on image and influence. The goal appeared to be big headlines, polished production, and cultural impact. But he argues the projects lacked the deeper storytelling and authenticity that often keep viewers returning to a series. From his perspective, the shows looked visually impressive but did not create a strong emotional connection with audiences. Curiosity brought many viewers in at the beginning, but Bauer claims that long-term engagement quickly faded. Once that momentum slowed, he says the ripple effects began spreading into other areas connected to the brand. Without strong support from a major streaming platform, Bauer suggests some of the surrounding ventures also faced new challenges. He points to reports that As Ever sales struggled to maintain early excitement, while Archwell Foundation donations reportedly dropped compared to earlier years. Bauer also claims that some potential investors and partners became more cautious about entering new collaborations. In his analysis, Netflix's gradual distancing created a chain reaction that affected several projects at once. What had once been presented as the beginning of a major media network suddenly looked far less stable. Bauer also highlights what he sees as a major irony in the story. The couple often spoke about launching bold humanitarian and media initiatives designed to reshape public conversation. Yet Netflix, a company built entirely on data and audience behavior, evaluates success through measurable engagement. According to Bauer, those numbers became the ultimate test. He argues that while public messaging continued to project confidence, the metrics behind the scenes painted a far more complicated picture, one that streaming platforms could clearly see. Bauer argues that what we are seeing now reflects a brand that relied heavily on public relations, hype, and carefully staged moments, rather than long-term audience engagement or stable growth. In his view, early excitement created the image of unstoppable success, but sustaining that image requires consistent results. According to Bauer, this moment serves as a major wake-up call in the entertainment and business world. Even the biggest celebrity names, the most glamorous deals, and the loudest headlines cannot survive forever without measurable performance behind them. He claims the empire Meghan once envisioned now appears to be under serious pressure, with the numbers from streaming, product sales, and partnerships raising difficult questions. In Bauer's telling, Netflix played a key role simply by relying on its usual system, letting audience metrics determine which projects continue and which ones quietly fade away. Bauer has been making similar predictions for years, and he believes recent events are beginning to reflect the concerns he raised earlier. He also points to the public contrast that captured headlines: Prince Harry becoming emotional in a London courtroom, while Meghan remained in California, managing public messaging and social media appearances. Bauer argues that moments symbolize the complicated dynamics surrounding their public image. If Harry were to lose his legal case, Bauer notes that legal expenses could potentially reach tens of millions of pounds, adding another layer of pressure. For Bauer, the larger story is still unfolding, and he believes the direction it takes next deserves close attention. Bauer also raises serious concerns about the couple's long-term financial picture. He estimates that the lifestyle Harry and Meghan maintain could require somewhere between $400 million and $600 million over time to fully sustain. By comparison, Bauer places Prince Harry's personal net worth at roughly $35 to $40 million. That does not mean they are broke. However, Bauer argues that without steady and reliable income streams, the cost of maintaining a high-profile lifestyle can quickly put pressure on finances. He points to several developments he believes contributed to that pressure. According to his reporting, the Netflix partnership has cooled, the Spotify deal ended earlier, and the As Ever brand has faced questions about inventory and sales momentum. Bauer also references a fundraising event connected to Archwell, where reports suggested that seats at a dinner were priced around $100,000 for attendees. In Bauer's view, moves like that indicate how difficult it can be to keep major projects funded once early partnerships fade. Another issue Bauer highlights is Harry's continued legal effort to secure publicly funded security protection in the United Kingdom. Bauer believes this fight may carry broader strategic importance beyond safety alone. He suggests the dispute could also be connected to Harry's desire to maintain relevance in the UK and possibly reopen communication with the royal institution. However, Bauer reports that King Charles has so far maintained a firm boundary, declining to provide direct financial support. Bauer's warning is that the couple now faces a difficult moment, with income streams that may not be as strong as they once appeared. According to his analysis, that situation creates strong pressure to monetize whatever public attention and royal connection they still have. In Bauer's view, many of their opportunities, speaking engagements, interviews, documentaries, and potential future books, still rely heavily on the royal story they once said they wanted to leave behind. Even after stepping away, he argues that the connection to the monarchy continues to shape how the public sees their brand. Years ago, Bauer made a statement that he believes applies even more strongly today. He argued that building a long-term public image around grievance or controversy is difficult to sustain because eventually audiences lose interest. Not necessarily anger or outrage, just indifference. And Bauer suggests that shift may already be happening. The intense public fascination that once surrounded every headline appears to have cooled. What remains, according to his reporting, are the hard details people continue to debate. Inventory reports, foundation filings, court testimony, and the ongoing discussion about whether the early hype matched the long-term results. Bauer believes those pieces together tell a larger story that is still unfolding. If you found this breakdown interesting, make sure to like the video, leave a comment with your thoughts, share it with others who follow royal news, and subscribe to Palace Insider for more updates and deep dives into the stories making headlines.